Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about day 2 of the Epsom Derby Carnival. Obviously, it's the day of the Epsom Derby. It's the same race. The Coronation Cup, now sponsored by Coolmore, now worth way more prize money. So I'm going to talk about these races. It's one of the best race days in the world, as I emphasised in my Oaks video. I've been there the last 2 years, so I'll be watching with a lot of focus the next few nights. So should be really interesting. Now we'll start off with the Coolmore Coronation Cup. £500,000 to the winner. I think it used to be like £300,000 to the winner, but it's attracted a very interesting field. And when I say interesting, it's exactly the same as last year when you look at the top two in the market. It's Calandagan versus Jan Bruegel 2, essentially. But I think it's going to be different this year. I think it's going to be a different outcome. So I'll just talk about some of these runners. Calandagan, like, where do you even start with a horse like him? He hasn't lost since this race last year, I think. And he's done so much since then. He's just evolved into this absolute world beater. He's one of the best horses in the world. To go from that Champion Stakes win, which was a really difficult race, they went really hard there, to go and winning the Japan Cup, which is just a ridiculous feat. And I think he was the second foreign horse or the second European horse to do it in like 20 years or something like that. So he's seriously going to go down as one of the best middle distance horses of all time. Then he returned this year in 2026 in the Shema Classic. Although it was a bit of an average race with, obviously the war and a lot of the Japanese and some other horses didn't come over. He still won that very well, and he's just got he's got a rapid turn of foot. And, I think he's coming here. This is the rematch against Jan Bruegel. There's some sort of talk that if it's, a bit wet, it's going to be really hard for him because it'll make it more of a staying competition, which plays into the abilities of Jan Bruegel and Lambourne and some of the other runners in the race. But I don't know, this horse is an absolute champion, and I'm going to be betting on Calandagan in the Coronation Cup. He's my tip for this race. I think we're meant to get drying weather on the Friday. So hopefully, we might get, on the more good side of good to soft on Saturday for Derby Day. But I love this horse. I think, this might be the last time we ever get evens or, $2.20, which is what I've got for him. So, you can't not have a bet on this horse. I mean, you can look at the race last year and, pick Jan Bruegel, but I don't know. I think Calandagan's more of a mile and a half sort of horse, and Jan Bruegel is probably better over maybe like an Irish St. Ledger sort of distance. So, although he won the race last year, so he's a very good mile and a half horse in himself. But I don't know. I think Calandagan's going to have the rub on him this time around. And then there's some other interesting runners here like Convergent. He's, really... I think he's a Group 1 horse, actually. I think he's going to really cement himself in these sorts of races. I think he'll go in races like the King George. Is he a gelding? He might, because I don't know, actually, to be honest. He might run in an Arc, a Breeders' Cup Turf, those sorts of races, Hong Kong Vase. So I think he's going to really cement himself as a Group 1 mile and a half horse. Then Lambourne, the dual Derby winner from last year. He kind of ran a bit average towards the end of last season, but he won I think it was the Huxley Stakes, and then, he comes here. He could run a big race, back up to a mile and a half, which he's proven to be very good at. Then Bay City Roller, who's a really admirable horse, actually. He's, one of my favourite horses, but I think this will be too hard for him. Although, he's gone right over a mile and a half in the past. But I think this is a different game. I think these horses at the top of the market are just a lot better. And, he ran super well in the Tattersalls Gold Cup last start, but I think... this will be, it's just a different level, some of these horses. And then Illinois, who, I remember he was like top 2 in the market for the Gold Cup last year. And then he obviously didn't get 4,000 metres. Most horses don't. And then, he's kind of just been thereabouts, and he comes here. This will be a bit short for him, but we know what his role is in this race, isn't it? He'll go forward, he'll set the pace, and hopefully sets up an epic duel between the two favourites, Calandagan and Jan Bruegel. So yeah, Calandagan's my official tip for the Coronation Cup. Not exactly a hard tip to find, but yeah, whatever. We'll move on to the Epsom Derby. One of the all-time great British classics. People say it's on the decline, but it still has that aura about it, I think. Big British race day, the sun's out, old race course, that sort of thing. So yeah, what a race. Obviously the favourite's Benvenuto Cellini. I made a video about this about a week and a half ago, kind of outlining what I thought of the race, and I kind of hold the same opinion as I do there. I haven't really deviated much from that. But I think Benvenuto Cellini and Item have very similar breeding. They're both out of Leib de Vega mares. Both mares were like Group 1 sort of milers in America, which is kind of interesting. I think they're both by Frankel too. So they're very similar. But I just think, like, this is going to be a really hot take, but I think both of them, like, they're more sort of mile and a quarter horses. I don't think they're really Derby horses. You could, Benvenuto might just go and win, because I actually thought he looked a bit like August Rodin in his last win. I thought he has that sort of vibe about him. And there's a very good chance that he will get a mile and a half, but I'm looking for Derby bred horses here. I'm looking for horses that are going to relish a mile and a half around a tricky race course, and that have that endurance about them, which you can kind of recognise in their pedigree. Now, Pierre Bonnard, I really like this horse. He's by Camelot, but my issue with him is that Ryan Moore has gone and picked Benvenuto Cellini, and if I was to tip up Pierre Bonnard, it means that I know better than Ryan Moore, which I obviously don't. So if it loses, that's like that'd be my thinking. Like, well, obviously Ryan Moore didn't choose this horse, so why would I choose it? So I can't have him. Although I really thought this horse is a real Derby horse, and he's going to love a mile and a half, so he's going to be in the finish. But based on the logic that I said before, which is probably a bit stupid, but I just can't have him because Ryan's not on him. But yeah, we'll talk about some of these others, and I'll talk about the ones that I think will win the race, my actual tips for the Epsom Derby. Maltese Cross. William Haggis, Tom Marquand. I think William Haggis isn't really known for going for the Derby in the past, but he comes here with this horse, and if you look at his pedigree, he is absolutely built for an Epsom Derby. He's by Sea the Stars out of a Camelot mare, and I think he's a very good chance of winning this. I think he won very well at Lingfield last start. I don't know how strong that race was, but I feel like he and Bay of Brilliance look like really useful horses going forward. And I think he's a really good chance here. I think, if it's not too wet, the track, then I think he's got a really good chance. And he's one of my tips for this race, Maltese Cross. Just with that breeding, I think he's going to love this, step up in trip. Although it's not much from Lingfield, but 2,400 metres at Epsom is different to any other course in the world, I think. So I think he's going to enjoy this step up in trip. I think he's a really fascinating horse for this race. Now we're talking about James J Braddock, obviously owned by Kevin Blake, who's I think he's like a race planner for Joseph O'Brien, but he also works in the media and he does a great job. He's very interesting to listen to, very insightful. And he comes here, owns part of this horse, and I think he's a really good chance, James J Braddock. He won that Group 3 at Leopardstown last start, beating Pierre Bonnard. And I think being by Zarak, he'll enjoy the step up in trip. I think he's really interesting. And I think, if we do get a bit of juice in the ground, I think he's a massive chance. You can see he's got that win in his second start on the heavy, and his run-on's kind of good to yielding in the past. So I think he's a really interesting contender, and here's my other tip for this race. Maltese Cross, James J Braddock, they're my two tips for the race. Just their pedigrees and what they've done so far, I think they're going to really appreciate 2,400 metres at Epsom. So they're my two for the race, but I'll still talk about some of these others. You got Bay of Brilliance, who ran very, very, very admirably against Maltese Cross last start and just got beat. And then Ancient Egypt, obviously, Ammo Racing come here with two. He's a little bit better than the other one, I think. But this horse is really nice too. I think he's by Frankel. I think this will be too far for him. I think he's more of a mile and a quarter sort of horse. He won very well last start though, in that listed race at Newmarket with Rowan Scott on board. I think he's really nice. I think he's definitely sorted his head out a little bit. I think he was a bit of a hot-headed sort of horse as a 2-year-old, and now he's kind of relaxed a bit, knows what his role is, and I think he's really nice, although I don't think he's really a Derby horse, Ancient Egypt. Now, some of these others, obviously, you can expect Action and Christmas Day to go forward. They'll set the pace. I think Action went forward last start, and he ran quite well. Christmas Day, obviously, was the favourite for the Dante, but, got beat by some better horses. And then, Balzac, who's by Japan. I remember I backed him last start at Lingfield, and he didn't run terribly, but, this is probably too hard, although he kind of gives off that vibe that he's one of those, And especially with Sylvester de Souza on board, he's going to be one of those roughies that's in the finish, Balzac, I think. Obviously, by Japan, he should get the distance. And I think, if Sylvester does something really clever, he could be in the finish, like maybe third or something. But he's not the worst. He's not the worst roughie in this race, not by a long shot, I don't think, Balzac. And then these others are literally just making up the field. Obviously, Poker costs like $10 million or whatever. No, it didn't cost that much. But it might as well have. And it's got, I think it's by Frankel. It's one of the lowest rated horses to ever run in the Derby. I think 80 is the minimum rating. Oh, sorry, it's not by Frankel. It's by Wooten Bassett. But you get what I mean. He's 80 rated, and I think that's the minimum you have to be to run in a Derby. So I have no idea tactically what they're going to do with this horse. Probably just go back and run on, but he might be running on for hours. That's the only issue. But yeah, I think, it's a great race. Obviously, one of the British classics. You just can't not look forward to it, can you? My tips are Maltese Cross, James J Braddock for Kevin Blake. And I think the two at the market, at the top of the market, might be a bit of a question mark over 2,400 metres or a mile and a half for the UK viewers. But yeah, that's what I think of the Epsom Derby and the Coronation Cup. Before I wrap up the video, I'm just going to talk about that fillies and mares race, that Prince Elizabeth. Sorry, I just can't talk. The Prince Elizabeth Stakes. There we go. Group 3. She's Perfect is the favourite. Obviously, Basha Watts. Everyone's seen the videos where she got beat in the French 1,000 guineas. Well, she didn't really get beat, but the whole story, you already know about it. And I think she's a very big chance here. Although, there's some weird horses in this. I don't know why Pacific Mission's here. I think she should be maybe racing against her own 3-year-olds. I don't know. But yeah, I think this is kind of a bit of a steep task, especially at Epsom around that course. I don't know if she's... I don't know, to be honest. She just seems like a weird race to go with Pacific Mission. And then Sparks Fly, obviously carrying a penalty, 6 years old, might not get her ground. I think she has no chance in this race, Sparks Fly. It's a ridiculous price, 4-1. But yeah, I think She's Perfect is a massive chance. She'll be one of my bets if the track holds up, because actually no, sorry. She's ran in France heaps. No, she'll be fine if it's wet. Sorry, I forgot what. I became a casual racing fan just then. I think She's Perfect is a good horse, good favourite for this race. And then a horse that I've had a bet on is Breckenbrough. Now she started off her career in England, and then she went to France, trained by Mario Baratti. And she's done alright this year so far. She's been 3rd and 4th in some listed races in France. And now Oisin Murphy gets the ride, comes over to England. And I think she's, she could be useful. I think 12-1 is an interesting price. I think she should be a bit shorter for a horse that's proven herself in some black type races this year. So I think she's interesting at that price, and I'll have something on She's Perfect when it gets a bit closer to race day, I'd imagine. So they're my tips for the Princess Elizabeth Stakes. And obviously the Coronation Cup and the Derby are going to be two very thrilling affairs, I think. Very interesting races. But if you like this sort of content, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you later.